Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly, and I'm live. And I'm live with the Deans, Ayana and Joel. And I'm in their space, and I'm loving it. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just keeping my fingers crossed that the storm doesn't impact us too much this weekend.
Yeah, I know. How are you, Ayana?
I'm doing good as well. Really happy to have you here.
Yes. I'm saying that I'm live because this is the first face-to-face in maybe 2+ years.
Wow.
So this is a good feeling. And to be having the Deans, it is even better for me. But that's for another conversation. So Ayana is a wife, mother, content creator. Joel, of course, is the husband, software engineer, and tech entrepreneur. We're going to talk, we're using this as a base, and of course it will spill off into other things. Can one really evolve and become a better version? And we're going to go to the base, I think, which is the whole idea of being a better version, and then we put it all together. Okay. So for you, what comes to mind when you hear that piece, the whole idea of being a better version? Joel and then Ayana.
I think what comes to mind when I hear the whole idea of becoming a better version of oneself is having the self-awareness to notice when there are probably a certain character traits or behaviors that could be rectified or improved, whether that's using psychotherapy or just basically evolving in some way, shape, or form, utilizing mental health tools.
All right. Ayana.
I'm not sure if I subscribe to better version as much as I subscribe to a different version. I think what each time of your life commands of you, calls from you, what a person that you could be with could demand of you, could pull out of you, is different at all times. Not necessarily better or worse, just different.
All right. So, somewhat different in terms of perspective. So I'm going to go back to Joel and then come back to you. The whole idea of a self-evaluation, you said psychotherapy. Tell us a little bit more about that bit.
Okay, so I see a psychologist probably twice per month. So I am used to utilizing the cognitive behavioral therapy mechanism for like evaluating thoughts. Because when you become a better version of yourself, you become a better thinker. And you can't think differently if you aren't analyzing your thoughts.
How did you get to that point? And let me tell you why I'm asking that. Especially in Jamaica, I don't think we normalize people going to therapy, and especially for a man to say, this is what I do on a regular basis. How did you get to that point where for you said, this is something I think I need to do because it will make me a better person?
I think it's after just admitting to myself that I needed help. I think that's the first step, because if you cannot admit to yourself that you actually need the help and you aren't looking in the mirror and like facing yourself for who you are, like when all the doors are shut and you're facing your actual stream of thoughts, then you cannot take that step. So after years of probably stuck in various, I would call them negative loops, I realized that I needed professional help, because even though my wife is very helpful from like a psychological, emotional standpoint, I know I needed an external, professional, basically angle to really solidify me with systematic mechanisms that I could apply to my thinking.
I am sitting here and I'm thinking, is this so much because of support then from Ayana? Or do you then have friends who say to you, Joel, boy, I'm proud of you for doing this, or, what's going on with you, Joel? So have you gotten a bit of both, or is it that you do have that support around you to say, yes, he is working on himself?
To be honest, it's mostly my wife, because she's very sometimes blunt and like and like direct in terms of like letting me know when there are things I need to look into. And it's always helpful because I'm sometimes stubborn and I tend to hide a lot of things from myself. And then sometimes when she comes to me with them, I'm very defensive. So when I see that I'm being very defensive, I will take notes of those issues, go to my therapist, and then my therapist will kind of get me down a notch, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, she was actually right. And I was actually right. And then I'll I think that's what's needed sometimes in relationships, like a real support system. But to have a support system while maintaining privacy, sometimes it's not that easy. So like having a professional that is
Ethically responsible for
ethically
not
responsible
giving away your business.
information is very helpful, because a lot of times when you turn to friends for support, it's just one-sided. You're like rubbing your shoulder and just choosing your side instead of being objective.
So Ayana, for you, you said earlier that you don't necessarily subscribe to the whole idea of a better version, but that different phases or different stages of your life demand a different version. Unpack that a bit for me. Why do you say that?
What I would say is the reason I'm not comfortable with better is it makes who I was last year less than who I am today. And I don't feel comfortable with admitting or acknowledging a version of myself from before now as worse than I am now. I just didn't know what I know now. So with the application of the knowledge I have now, I can make decisions that would seem, quote unquote, better than the decisions I would have made previously. But are they better though? No, they're just more informed. So I cannot be expected to behave in a way that I don't have in me. You are a lecturer, Noreen, and you find that sometimes you're explaining material to students and they might not get it. And then another time you explain the material to this group and the group has gotten it. And everybody is just on top of the cloud. You're feeling great, vibing in the class, and then you're having the same class, the same lesson that you know is a brilliant lesson with a different group, and everybody's kind of like solemn and you're wondering what is happening. And I feel like the difference is, you know, that saying where they said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I am ready to receive and to give something that I did not have before. It doesn't mean that I am better. No, I'm still me. And if I was ever great, still great. But now I have something else because of all that I've learned, all the growing that we've done together. So yeah, I don't like better. It's just a technicality, but I understand the sentiment of better.
Okay. So now we're going to put it together. So for you, the question wouldn't be, can one really evolve? For you, the question would be, can one then adapt or adjust based on what is happening?
Well, I think I can keep evolve, because can one evolve, but instead of into a better version of themselves, just evolve. Evolution still indicates different.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
we can keep it at, can one.
Okay. So can one really evolve then into a better version, and can one really evolve into a different version? Yes. If so, how? How then is that done?
Oh, okay. So because I study the sciences and I make apps, I think of things in terms of systems. So when I think of someone evolving and the how of it, I think of the environment and the stimuli that you're being impacted with. Because it's based on the environment that you're in that will trigger the behaviors and the thoughts that you're experiencing. So if you're in a calm, clean, scented space, you're more likely to be relaxed, and you're more likely to be in a state where you'll be encouraged and enthusiastic. But if you're in a violent space where you are fighting for your life, your amygdala is being triggered, you're in fight and flight mode, and you're fighting for your survival.
He just said a word that he's going to send people to the dictionary just now. So he's going to want to tell us what that word means.
So the amygdala is a part of the brain that is our survival. It's like our system for survival. it determines if you should fight or flight.
Okay.
So it really triggers like the stress hormone cortisol to just let you respond or not. So the more you optimize your environment, that's like the first start for like evolving, because you're a direct representation of your environment.
What about those who have no control then of their environment, and you want to be better, but this is where you are, and you just have to work with what you have?
That's a very good question.
What then?
I think in situations like those, I would say from personal experiences, what I've done is I've become like a dreamer. So I dream and think of where I want to be, and then I try to get a deeper understanding of what the environment is and what's the meaning I can take away from the environment, and how I can utilize the environment as some form of propellant to move to another level.
So the whole idea of self-evaluation, self-awareness, that's somewhat elusive for some people, but we're going to unpack that some more with the deans when we get a word from our partners.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors: Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics, or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Photography is an art, but more so, photography must come from the heart. Precious moments, priceless times. Take a pic and know it will turn out fine.
BMC Photography JA. Beautiful moments captured. Let's go.
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Buddy program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at landolanguage@gmail.com, because the real question is, how can we help you?
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
So we've been talking about self-evolution. Can one really change? Can one really become a better version of themselves? Well, we've changed. We've become better versions over and over. So we're here to talk more about that.
Ayana, how then can one then, for you then, adapt based on what is happening for them?
Well, I agree with Joel that the environment has a lot to do with it. Your nurture has a lot to do with it. Support systems around you have a lot to do with your transformation. I think transformation happens always in a moment. We are changing all the time. In our culture, we're not allowed to change our minds much. I find in my own experience where changing your mind is usually seen as failure. You are seen as fickle. And I think in my own upbringing, I thought it was good to have a sense of autonomy where you stick to your word so much so that you don't even spite yourself. And I've grown that out because I realize that doesn't work for me. I need the freedom to grow and to change as much as I need to, because the world around me is changing as well. Personally, we have had enough experiences in our marriage and in our life together that would cause us to be really adrenal. Trauma changes the body on a cellular level. And we have had the good fortune of being able to communicate well with each other when we are facing some of the toughest times, so that we can decide, okay, this is how we agreed that we were going to live. This is how we agreed that we relate to each other. But this doesn't work for us anymore. We're in a completely different place. How can we then wrap our head around who we need to be today such that we can have the life that we are choosing for each other? We have an idea of the future we want to create, and we revisit it ever so often because things will change. I never thought I was going to have any children, and now I have a son. And I happen to have my son in quite a, I'm going to say, for want of a better word, traumatic fashion. And if there was not a moment that would change us, that is one that was very earth-shattering, very shaking. So after that, we would have to sit and look at what our life is. What are we trying to create? Where are we not in alignment with the vision that we have for ourselves? And we are okay 100% with revisiting those agreements at any point that we see fit. And we're okay with saying, man, we did naive when we did things, so we're not going to do it so, and be okay with that. I mean, we thought we were going to be 25 sitting on 25 mil. We're 30, and I don't know where the 25 mil is. But we have plans, and we know that the plans can change. And even so, we are allowed to change. We don't wrap ourselves. I think I want to go a little bit more inward. There's a way how people defend themselves when in an argument. As a mistake. I think what we try to do in this house is to not stay no type of way. So there's no as a mistake. My husband, if you don't mind, he has been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. You don't mind?
No,
right. And so I saw him stay. He's very anxious. And if we lean into that, then he can say and do anything in this house, and it will be because he's anxious. And guess who not say nothing? So we realize a mistake is a loophole. Yeah. You experience anxiety, but anxiety is not you. There are moments in my life where I haven't been consistent. Remember, I'm supposed to be a podcaster. I have not recorded a podcast since May. Am I inconsistent? No, but I have experienced bouts of inconsistency. As there's context around everything that is happening in my life, I cannot claim inconsistency as me because I lock myself into this belief about me, and now we live in an illusory truth about who I am. He lives in an illusory truth about who he is, and we can stay combative and, clashing with each other for the rest of our lives if we like that. But me not like that. So
that is not the life that you want to create.
So I think evolution for us happens in the moment. Every single time we stop and we say, what are we doing? Who are we being? What are we trying to create? Is this in alignment with what we're trying to create? Okay, well, we need to be something else.
As we're wrapping up, somebody will listen to this and somebody will watch this and they're saying, these two young people, they're enlightened or they're at different terminology. They say they're woke or whatever people are gonna label it as. You've said a lot, but if there's just one idea that each of you would want somebody to, internalize, what would that one idea be?
Well, the main thing I would like to, the main thing I would like to share is that when you're bettering yourself, always remember that what you see in the mirror is not necessarily a reflection of who you are. Meaning, when we tend to look in the mirror, we'll think that we have not changed, but we're changing with every second that passes. Every single thought, every single sensory input that our brain processes is creating episodic memories internally. And when we really think about that, we can see that we are creating different versions of ourselves each day. So the reason why I'd like to share this is in arguments or in discussions, we like to refer to previous versions of folks as a means of getting back at them. And if we aren't mindful, we'll realize that we are subscribing to a previous version of the person. So in evolving, we have to be present, because if we aren't present, we'll stay stuck in the past.
I like that. I agree with Joel. I believe that our memory of the past holds evidence about who we know ourselves to be, who we know our partners to have been. And if we stack evidence against the person and use the evidence in the present, we are not seeing them for who they are in that moment. We're seeing who we remember them to be. So if we are becoming better versions, or if we are becoming different versions of ourselves, different, compatible with the time that we're in, the experiences that we're having, the life that we're creating, then we have to throw away the evidence, because that evidence belongs to another person. That's not the person standing in front of you. That's not me. That's not you. And I would like to ask anybody who is listening, anybody who is watching, to give yourself permission to grow and to change and to be different, and know that who you were 5 minutes ago doesn't really have any bearing on who you have the power to choose to be right now.
Yeah. And even though we've been married for almost 5 years, we have started new relationships with each other within those 5 years multiple times.
Yeah, we started one June 16.
Yeah, every time we evolve, we're like, okay, we're in a new relationship now, because it's a new approach. It's a new set of constraints.
Love it. This was Make It Last podcast. It's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with the other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for